The further we go in this Spade Kingdom more, the deeper and more intense it is getting. This arc is still very early, but we can already tell that this arc will be the most gruesome arc that Tabata has ever written. This early on in the saga, a lot of deaths have already happened, and the Dark Triad is already showing that they will be more fearsome and more dangerous than the Warrior Magic Devil. Right now you are looking at the Golden Dawn headquarters. You see how lively it looks. But in the past few chapters, that completely changed all the way to chapter 239, the most recent chapter, which confirmed to us that the Golden Dawn members, half of them, are already dead. In our last theory video, we talked about the end of the Clover Kingdom, and we discussed that if Zeno is successful with his Dark Disciples at wiping out the Golden Dawn members, even if it's not all of them, but if he captured William, then it would be a huge global problem for the Clover Kingdom because, as Julius stated, there are low on resources and military power. But we did not talk about how individually it will affect certain characters. And the root of all this trouble definitely goes back to Yuno and his family connections with the Dark Triad. We know how all this started. The Zogret siblings, the Dark Triad, destroyed the Grenbelial family, Yuno's royal family, his father and mother. And now history is repeating itself. The Dark Triad destroyed half of the Golden Dawn members, his friends, and Yuno is one of the only survivors. And in chapter 239 was the first time we ever seen real, true emotion from Yuno, screaming in pure pain and sadness. He can only go from two routes from here. He either used this as motivation to get stronger, or these are the early signs that Tabata is showing us that Yuno will fall into despair. Let's talk about it. Back in chapter 234, Ralph showed Yuno the memories and the thoughts of the people that were in his life, his mother, his father, even Ralph himself and Ralph's father, and everything that happened all the way up to him going to Hodge Village. He showed Yuno his past with his flame magic trace mirage spell, showing us how the Dark Triad got empowered by destroying the king of the Spade Kingdom, Yuno's father, and everyone else that was connected to Yuno's bloodline, committing treason and leaving the whole peaceful Spade Kingdom now up in flames. We get the full backstory of how Ralph's father sacrificed his life by being chased off by the Dark Triad. Everyone is dying and Yuno was the only one that made it into Hodge Village. Now from what we know, Father Oris found Asta and Yuno in front of the church, but the interesting thing about this backstory, Asta was not involved, or Tabata chose not to show Asta. A lot of theories can evolve around that because we do know that Asta and Yuno's backstory intertwines in some way or some fashion, but I believe we will say that for a whole nother video. But even after Yuno heard and seen all of this that happened with his family and the connection with the Dark Triad, he gave off this I don't care vibe, saying that, well, even so, I am Yuno of the Clover Kingdom. And immediately after saying this, he gets an emergency call from the Golden Dawn headquarters that intruders are attacking his magic squad. And voila, it is the Dark Triad. Almost as if fate is testing him, bringing him right back into their crosshairs. Yuno is destined to see them again. And in the worst way possible, Yuno returns late and see half of the bodies of the Golden Dawn members and they are dead. The reason why this is so impactful for Yuno because he finally started to loosen up a bit, especially when he became a vice captain. Everyone started to accept him and they even apologized, saying that we were wrong for treating you that way because you're a peasant, but you are a great magic knight, and one day I can see you becoming a wizard king. At one point, Yuno's only friends in the Golden Dawn was Mimosa and Klaus, but now everyone started to accept him. He was friends with everyone. So seeing all of his friends on the floor, half of them are dead, that changed Yuno. Black Clover Chapter 235 was the first signs of we seeing the rage of Yuno. But something changed in Chapter 236. In Chapter 236, the Dark Disciple that Yuno was fighting stated that the last king of the Spade Kingdom, which is referred to Yuno's father, was a peace-loving idiot, so the Dark Triad butchered him and gave everyone else that wanted to fight power. The Dark Disciple Gatoroids felt like the king was a moron, but from the sounds of things you can tell that Yuno's father was just a benevolent king. Now we've seen from the previous chapter before this one, Yuno gave that I don't care vibe, showing no emotion, listening and seeing what happened to his family. So you would think upon hearing this, from the signs that Yuno has shown, you would think that he wouldn't care hearing that his father got butchered by the Dark Triad, and Gatoroyce is hyping about it, saying that the king was just a moron. But Yuno asked him a question. He said, when you hurt people, how do you feel? He said, electrified. It is the greatest feeling ever. And instantly after Yuno heard this, we seen that Tabata shifted Yuno's mood completely right after this. We see that Yuno starts muttering to himself mid-fight, saying that I get it now. The world gets wrapped because of people like you. That's why the chain of curses never ends. And Yuno was able to slice Gatoroyce open with his spirit of Zephyr, killing him, saying whether it's a magic knight or prince of the Spade Kingdom, I'll be the one to shut this down. Now from this dialogue that Yuno is saying, I believe that Tabata is highlighting that Yuno is declaring and taking responsibility that he will be the one to shut everything down, whether it's a magic knight or prince of the Spade Kingdom, because he realized that this history, the Dark Triad and the Dark Disciples, they are continuing their villainy because of his family wasn't able to take them down. They weren't strong enough. So with Yuno, with this personality, refuse to lose type of trait, he wants to be the one to end it all before we see any more bloodshed. But it continues. After Yuno, Klaus, and Leotal defeated one of the Dark Disciples, they see William is now in trouble. He is defeated by Zeno, but Yuno recognized him immediately from the memories that Ralph showed him with his flame magic. He knows that Zeno was one of the people that was responsible of killing off his family. And without hesitation, Zeno attacked them immediately, killing off, which we thought in chapter 238, Klaus and Leotal. But the interesting thing that happened here is that Yuno started to think about everything. He started to even think about his mother and how his family were destroyed by the Dark Triad. The rage started building up for Yuno. Even more, everybody that was a part of his life, from his past into his present, they are all being taken from him by the same people. History is repeating itself. By the Dark Triad. Full of rage, Yuno quickly blitzed Zeno, but realized there is a huge gap in power. With his strongest attack spell, Spirit of Zephyr, he wasn't able to cut through Zeno's bone magic because his bone magic constantly regenerates. And to make matters worse, Zeno, who can use up to 80% of demon powers, only showed him 55% of his demon powers. As manga readers, quickly when we read this panel, we realized that Yuno stands no chance. Zeno even told Yuno in the chattest way possible, it's not that you are weak, I'm just simply stronger. Next panel after that, in chapter 238, we see a panel at the end of the chapter, Yuno is dying. A lot of people felt after this chapter that this was the end of Yuno. We would no longer see him, but I felt as though there's no way Tabata will build up this character with much great character development, knowing the history of his family and the ties of the Dark Triad, and it all comes back to him. There is no possible way that Tabata will kill off this character. And then in the most recent chapter, chapter 239, we see that William was able to use his tree magic recovery spell, World Tree Magic Budding of Idrisil. With this magic, he was able to recover the wounds of all of the Golden Dawn members who were near death. But the ones who were already dead, which is half of the Golden Dawn members, William wasn't able to bring them back. Characters like Shirin and Hamon, they all died. When David, one of the Golden Dawn members, announced that half of the Golden Dawn members are dead, everyone reacted in a sad way, but Yuno's reaction was completely different than everyone else. He started thinking to himself, if only he was stronger. And he started to scream in agony and pain, taking responsibility on himself again, which is not healthy because putting all the world's weight on your shoulder can only lead to one direction: anxiety, depression, which is a very thin line that is connected to despair. Someone can fall into despair with having those traits. And the reason why this is not healthy for Yuno because he has the 4-Leaf Clover Grimoire. And we know that when you fall into despair, especially someone who has the 4-Leaf Clover Grimoire, that 4-leaf will become a 5-leaf. And what we know from this arc already, more people are going to die. And Yuno cannot continue to have that responsibility, or it's going to cause more sorrow, more pain, which can lead to despair. The Warrior Magic Devil talked about when a bearer of a 4-leaf grimoire is engulfed by deep despair, a 5-leaf grimoire is born. We've seen this happen when the Warrior Magic Devil was able to let Patri fall into deep despair once he found out he was manipulated and everything he was doing for Licht was actually for the Warrior Magic Devil. We even seen this happen also with Licht, who has a 4-leaf Clover Grimoire, who's seen the death of his wife Tetia and all of his elf family members, his whole elf tribe. So, the route that Yuno is going, having a 4-leaf Clover Grimoire, more loved ones are going to die. The way that Tabata is writing this arc, more people are going to die. And even one of Julia's predictions that have yet to come true, he mentioned that Asta will die. So, this unhealthy route that Yuno is going, that is showing signs that he will fall into despair, how can this all be prevented? Catch you guys in the next one.